Welcome back to bringing my hurricane damaged catamaran back into a sailing around the world condition. In the previous videos we have focused on fixing the holes on the outside. A couple of holes on the right side of the boat, which a container during Hurricane Beryl smashed into it, after which it landed on top of it. And a big hole in the keel, which was caused by the hurricane pushing the boat off its stance. Those holes are fixed on the outside. And then in last week's video we had a setback as a part of the core of the transom was rotten due to water ingress, so we had to replace that too. In this week's video we are closing another few holes. We need to put new rigging in the forestay, and we continue preparing the boat for painting below the waterline and spray painting above. These seats were bent and broken by the container that blew on the boat by Hurricane Beryl, so obviously also this is broken and has to be fixed.
I like it. I have a tool fetish. This is a very nice one. It's a very nice look. Oh, precious. Ah. Too much epoxy.
Too much epoxy inhaled.
Let's go. Oh ja. Oh, die moet je Marianne laten zien.
Nou, die maar niet. Like with all the other fiberglass repairs we have already done, first we check if there is delamination, and if yes, grind it away. Then we need to grind all the gel coat away up until where we are going to do the repair. Both sides of the boat where the front seats were each have 3 holes. Not all are damaged, and some are more damaged than others. This is by far the most damaged one. We grind away all the delamination and take the wet core out. There's a lot of holes in my boat. Word.
Gonna fix it, no problem, relax. We're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it good. I'm gonna make a plate here and then fill it again. So
Let's fill up the holes.
Kijk met z'n tweeën er hier doorheen. So I made a small plate.
We then add a fiberglass plate cut to size with a mix of epoxy, hardener and silica. As I explained in last week's video, you use silica in the epoxy and hardener mix to create a very strong glue. And you use microballoons in the epoxy hardener mix as a fairing compound at the end of the projects. Silica or glue is to do a repair and make it very strong. And microballoons is just a filler that makes the final layer easier to sand. Here, Rolf adds a fiberglass plate with silica.
If my calculations are right, it will fit.
To fix the hole and create a nice equal surface.
Yeah. Yes!
The next step is going to be to lay a fiberglass mat over it. And if you've seen the previous videos, you know that to put on a fiberglass mat, there has to be a nice smooth surface below it. This can dry now, and the good thing is that rain cannot enter the boat here anymore. Later on in a future video, we're going to add a fiberglass mat Then add a mix of epoxy hardener and microballoons and shape it back into original shape. But for now, we continue with the next project. Okay, so we're gonna put the rigging on. It might be funny to see. I didn't know where else to put it, so I've actually been sleeping with my forestay. Let's take it out. The reason the forestay was off was because the container blown on the boat by Hurricane Beryl was lying against the forestay, bending some of its aluminum pipes, also called intrusions. We're laying everything out right now. The furler and all we call these pipes intrusions. It's going to be made with a stay lock. So how the system works is actually really easy. Pull the wire through, and you have one of these pieces. Put a rubber in. Then lay the wire in, and then you put the next piece in, and then you twist this 90 degrees, then it's stuck, and then you push it halfway in, 2 screws in here, into the other one, 2 screws, and stuck. For who knows a lot about rigging, might wonder, why are you putting in a stay lock fitting? Well, the way that the rigging in the forestay was done on this boat was at a machine shop. They put the wire inside the forestay and then pressed both sides with a machine. That also meant that it was impossible to take the wire out of the forestay without cutting the wire, because the pressed on fittings on each wire end were too big to fit through the intrusions, those aluminum pipes. So now we had to make a choice. It is possible to add a turnbuckle in the drum, which makes it easier to adjust the tension of the wire after putting the forestay back on the boat. However, this drum takes a very specific turnbuckle. It had a jibs, which is thinner than most turnbuckles on the market, and the turnbuckles available here were just too thick to fit in. So in order to make it work in the place where we are, we either would have to press it on the spot with a machine, which is simply not available on this island, or use a stay lock fitting so that we can put on the fitting after putting the wire through the intrusions. So that is the reason why we do it like we do it here. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it this way. It only makes it a little harder to put the forestay back on, as you have to pull the forestay down with some force to make it fit. Another thing I wanted to mention is that all those intrusions are the same, only the bottom and top are different. The bottom is different because that is where the drum is connected and where the sail slides in. And the top is the one that is cut shorter to size, because these things are standard sizes and each boat is of course a little different. Now we're cutting the length of the wire to size. When I just began with sailing, I was afraid of things like these, because I don't know, it all looks so complicated, but once you know how it all works, most things on the boat are actually made like a tractor, really simple. If you know how tractors work, but they're also like quite simple to work at. This is the stay lock fitting we have. So you open it up, wire goes through here, through this part, and through a cone, and then it's being pushed all together. I'll show you. We then open up the wire, twisting the surrounding strands away from the core wire. Then we slide the cone over the core. The strands are twisted open, this goes through the middle, and now we need to mark the end piece here that is going to be exactly on 3mm distance. Then we twist the wires back around the cone, making sure it's overlapping 3mm. Then it's time to do a dry fit, screwing it all back together. And then opening it up again to see how it looks. The cone has a slot. It's important to check that a wire does not go in that slot. And it's very important that all the wire ends have an equal distance from each other. So that's all looking pretty good. Now putting Loctite on it, and after that life cock. When twisting it on, the life cock should come out on the other end, where the cable comes out of the stay lock fitting, and it does, so that's great. It needs to be twisted tight, but not over tight. Everything is back together, then first somebody goes in the mast, and then we pull the forestay back on.
It fits?
I did not. I only filmed the process as if it all went well on YouTube. I didn't film the actual disaster of having to take it off 3 times because something wasn't fitting or something was wrong. So this should be the last time.
Let's hope.
We then connect the rope to the forestay, pull it through the anchor roller and back to a winch, and then we can use the winch to pull the forestay down. We then put the big pin in and then a split pin through it, and then it is done. It was a bit more work as expected. Hey guys, I want to take a moment to thank all of you guys for watching, and a special thanks to all of the patrons. Now, upper tier patrons are on the wall of the boat. Okay, on to the video. When doing a repair like this, all of the things we're doing, the whole planning of this project, all evolve around drying time. Working with the weather and with drying or curing times of the epoxies and paints. We are now continuing putting the next layer of fairing compound on the keel before we continue sanding the hull above the waterline to get it ready for spray painting. Because, as you understand now, the fairing compound has a certain amount of drying time or curing time. So in order to continue soon again with that, we have to do this first. this batch of fairing compound, and the keel will have to wait a little because there's something else more important on the planning of drying and curing, taking in account the upcoming not so great weather planning. We then continue sanding the hull of the boat. First with 180 grit sandpaper, that's what we use before putting on the primer. And later we will sand the primer with 320 grit sandpaper. Pretty good, I think. I'm gonna sand on the other side, but first we're gonna tape the waterline. I am filming as much as I can of the project. Of course, you don't have to see everything double, but you know, I'm working one side, Rob's working on the other side, and you've already seen him doing this. He's using a finer grit now. There was no hole here, but there was still a bit of a dent, and we're really trying our best before spray painting to make it as perfect as possible. So here and also at the back there was also an uneven part which we filled up. There was an old repair. So while Rob is continuing here, I'm gonna continue sand with the machine on the other side, so that in a couple of days we can spray the primer on. Like this, still okay, but here in the middle it seems to get wider and wider, and when this is really white from the dust, then instead of sanding it's like polishing, and then all the work is for nothing. So I use a brush or a towel to wipe it off, yeah, until I have to use a new one. It's a really strange and satisfying feeling after so much work when it's time for a finishing touch. Of course, repairing the inside of the boat is still awaiting us, but just already having this done feels so satisfying. Must feel satisfying to you too after watching it from the beginning. I cannot wait for the day of spray painting. So now what we're doing is we're creating a uniform layer on top of it, which will also fill scratches like you still see here. And then when the uniform layer is on, then we can sand the uniform layer to perfection. And then again, put a full layer of primer on it and a top coat. It's crazy, right? How you go from this, where I stick my hat through, now we're ready to this. Little bit of paint makes a big difference.